for this shit. I'm too old for this shit. You go first. I'm really too old for this shit. No, you go first. I'll cover it. Boy, I'm too old for this shit. You're getting too old for this shit.
I'm not too old for this. You will not. We're not too old for this shit.
Oh, well,
we're not too old for this shit. We're not too old for this shit. Yeah.
Do you remember this, Mr. Mash? The original plan, talked about this last year after we did our 4-part Godzilla retrospective last summer. You said, our next summer event should be 80s action movies. And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. And we decided we're going to do 3 episodes, and the first one was going to be about Arnold Schwarzenegger. The second one was going to be about a very prominent 80s action actor, and the third one was going to be about buddy cop movies, because you had recently rewatched the Lethal Weapon tetralogy. You wanted to talk about those. This was a year ago.
I would love to talk about the Lethal Weapon quadrilogy.
Some things happened.
Viewers' eyes just twitched.
The second part of our 80s action trilogy got pushed back. The Avengers came in the middle of all of this, and we had to talk about that. So now, our buddy cop episode seems very out of place. Rather random topic for us to just talk about in the middle of May. We're sorry about that, though not really.
These movies are still awesome, most of them.
We're going to talk about horror again in the very near future for our real horror fanboys, but I think there's a pretty big crossover in fandom between horror movies and 80s action movies. It seems that.
What was the name of that Chuck Norris movie?
Hellbound.
Yes, Hellbound.
Or are you talking about Silent Rage?
Both, actually, I guess.
Today we are talking about the buddy cop movie. This is not a comprehensive look over the genre. There have been many of these movies made, and some of them, the other cop is a dog, even.
K-9.
K-9, Turner and Hooch, and Top Dog. Also, there was a sequel to K-9.
K-911?
I believe it was called that. And the funny part is, in K-9, the dog is the straight-laced one, and the human is the out-of-control loose cannon. And it's the opposite. In Turner and Hooch, the dog is Mel Gibson, and the human is Danny Glover. And in K-9, the dog is Danny Glover, and the human is Mel Gibson. But we're not talking about those movies today.
Those are pretty much their own genre.
Yeah, that's an episode we're going to do later. Dog cop movies. No, we're not doing that episode.
Maybe.
When we get to dog cop movies, I think it's time to end the show. But we are going to be talking about 3 prominent series in the genre, and then a couple odds and ends here and there. I really wanted to see Hickey and Boggs, which is widely considered the very first buddy cop movie. That was Robert Culp and Bill Cosby. This was back in the early 70s. I really wanted to rewatch The Last Boy Scout, which is Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis.
Was it Glimmerman one?
The Glimmerman? Well, Seagal never really has a partner. Black Rain was one I wanted to do. That was Michael Douglas and a Japanese guy. We should get to the topic and discuss film that everybody thinks about when they think about the buddy cop genre.
These are the definitive
they are.
buddy cop movie.
Everybody thinks of the buddy cop concept. This is the series that comes to mind. And you know what you are, man?
Too old for this shit?
He's the criminal's worst nightmare. A cop who enjoys the danger.
No guns, no jujitsu, just bring him down.
He was ready to retire. Now, he's gonna wish he had.
Raj, meet your new partner.
If these guys can just stand each other, the bad guys don't stand a chance.
You ever met anybody you didn't kill?
Well, I haven't killed you yet.
1987's Lethal Weapon. This was written by Shane Black, who lived the screenwriter's dream. Right out of UCLA, he wrote the script. He immediately sold it to Joel Silver, who was the biggest producer in Hollywood at the time. Turned it into a movie that was a huge hit. One day, nobody knew who the hell Shane Black was. Next day, he's the biggest screenwriter in Hollywood.
Wow.
What is Lethal Weapon about?
This is the one with, is it Gary Busey?
Yeah, Gary Busey's the bad guy in this one.
Yeah, yes. Okay. This is the one where Mel Gibson and Gary Busey get fisticuffs. It's like like drug cartel shit.
Roger Murtaugh, this cop who's a family man, he's by the book, just turned 50, and he's assigned to a new partner, Martin Riggs, who is a troubled man. He just lost his wife, and he is suicidal.
Oh.
And that has made him reckless on the job, and he is looking to get killed in the line of work. They figure, hey, we'll team this wacky, crazy guy up with this very straight-laced fellow, and they'll even each other out, I guess.
And it'll make one hell of a movie.
Exactly! There is a plot about people who were in a special unit in Vietnam smuggling drugs into the country. It's really not that important. This is the Mel Gibson series that everybody thinks of.
Definitely.
Obviously, Mad Max was popular, and we're big fans of that, especially after the new one. But this is the series that everybody thinks of when they think of Mel Gibson. The character of Riggs is perfectly suited to his charms.
Yeah.
In this first film especially, he is rather unhinged.
I really like the scene. There's a shootout at a school. He just walks in with his gun pointed in the air.
Caps the guy.
Totally sums up the whole character.
What really sums it up is when he's busting the cocaine deal at the Christmas tree park. Being a Shane Black film, of course, takes place at Christmas time.
Well, of course.
Gibson does bring a bit of humanity to the part. He's not just this wild and crazy guy. He actually puts the gun to his head, and he's gonna end it.
Yeah.
He's gonna kill himself.
He looks in pain.
Good performance from Gibson. You know, he is a good actor.
Don't forget that. They look at him about the whole racism thing.
Yeah, these days especially, his personal problems have overshadowed his acting career.
Sometimes we, as a community, he's automatically a crappy person, which makes him a crappy actor.
Okay, Mel gets drunk once and goes off about how the Jews control the world. You do it once, we can forgive you. But he did it 2 or 3 times. Speaking of black people, what's the other half of this partnership?
Murtaugh.
Roger Murtaugh, played by
Danny Glover.
Yeah, the great Danny Glover. Rewatching the movie, I finally realized why it was called Lethal Weapon. There's a brief exchange where Murtaugh says, I suppose your whole body's a lethal weapon. That's the title! Murtaugh's a family man. The opening scene where his wife and kids bring him cake while he's in the bath, which is weird.
It's weird, but at the same time, it's cute.
His daughter tells him that he's getting a little gray in his beard, and he subsequently shaves. And the very, very famous line that he says in all of these movies.
I'm too old for this
I'm
shit.
too old for this shit. Danny Glover's great in this. What happened to that guy? He's not in a lot of stuff anymore.
2012 happened to that guy.
Yeah, he was in that. And I think the key moment in the first Lethal Weapon is after Riggs gets the jumper down using some rather unorthodox methods, and it's when Murtaugh realizes that he's not faking it. He really is crazy.
That shit crazy.
Yeah, he takes his gun and he's gonna do it. He's gonna shoot himself right then and there. Both characters are pretty shaked up by that. Not long after that, Murtaugh is inviting Riggs over to his family dinner.
That's to try and keep him alive through the holiday season.
They're becoming bros. And then after that, they're hanging out on Murtaugh's boat.
That's the moment that's in every first of a cop movie series. The cops have to fight each other.
Oh, yeah.
That's where they really recognize each other.
Then
as...
the bonding can start.
Yeah.
They always hate each other at first, and then they're best friends by the end of the movie. That is the rule. Some of my favorite scenes in this film are of Mel Gibson and Danny Glover talking, shooting the shit, and trying to figure out the details of the case, and arguing about the various aspects of what they're investigating. That stuff is really great. You know another thing about those two characters?
What?
They're gay.
Their initials are also reverses of each other. Roger Murtaugh and Martin Riggs.
You are right! I've never noticed that before. Both characters are introduced naked. Murtaugh's in the bath, and then Riggs is in his trailer just walking around, ass out.
Yeah, okay, well, hold on. That is lady fan service.
But then there's a scene where Riggs picks up a hooker, and then pointedly does not sleep with her. This movie ends with both characters partially nude, embracing. I know what you're thinking, Murtaugh's married. He's happily married. He has 4 kids. But nobody understands him the way that Riggs does. He says, my wife is a terrible cook. It's a story about 2 guys falling in love.
We're so getting lynched over the internet for this.
You mentioned the bad guy in this, yes. Gary Busey as Mr. Joshua.
On paper, when you're reading that, you're like, Mr. Joshua?
I think that's the whole point. It's such an unassuming name for a crazy hitman.
When you actually see it utilized in the movie, wow, this is a really effective name.
Busey is good in this. These days, Busey is better known for being a pop culture punchline. He is...
Oh, he was back in the day, too.
Well, he does seem genuinely crazy, and sometimes it's hard to tell when he's acting, but he's actually not the only villain in this. There's also Michael Ryan, who I know as the dad from Dharma and Greg, plays the mysterious general guy running the whole drug scheme. Also, Tom Atkins is in this movie.
Tom motherfucking Atkins?
Tom motherfucking Atkins is in this movie, and he has a great death scene because he's drinking from a carton of eggnog when Gary Busey comes up in the helicopter behind them, shoots him a couple times, and actually shoots through the carton of eggnog, so the eggnog is leaking as Tom Atkins is dying.
That is pretty cool.
What do you think of this as an action film?
If there's any movie that does the whole action comedy thing well, it's these movies.
Yeah, this first one leans a little more towards the action than the comedy.
Well, yeah, the series does get funnier as it goes on.
Definitely. You remember Endo, the torturer? Got Mel Gibson strung up and he's bare-chested and they're
Oh, that's gay.
pouring water on him and they're electrocuting him and
They're electrocuting his mad nipples.
crushes the guy's neck with his thighs.
Thunder thighs are on the move. Thunder thighs are loose.
Danny Glover gets a Mexican standoff with a car, but he wins. I like the first Lethal Weapon. The ending goes a little too over the top. Cop when Mel Gibson and Gary Busey are wrestling on Murtaugh's front lawn in the rain. He's using a nightstick as a tonfu, and Busey's got a lamppost, and there are cops all around. I'm like, shoot the guy. Why are they having this duel to the death when there are these police officers everywhere? It's a little
Well,
too...
doesn't he tell him that...
He says, but it doesn't make any sense at all.
But he's a detective, so therefore he outranks all of the officers there.
Yeah, but if a cop and an assassin were wrestling in the mud on somebody's front lawn and there were all these cops standing here, they'd probably say, why don't we just arrest the other guy? But that's because it's a movie. And this first Lethal Weapon is a great 80s action film.
We're back. We're bad. You're black. I'm mad. Come on, man.
Now, get ready for something lethal because the magic is back. Lethal Weapon 2. This time, they're not taking any crap.
Huge hit, and of course it spawned a sequel, Lethal Weapon 2. And Shane Black, the original writer of the first film, he left production on it because he wanted to end it by killing Riggs off. And the studio said, this is an ongoing franchise, so we can't kill off one of our two main characters. So he exited. And you know what? I think that was for the best. I've seen several of Shane Black's movies, and they all have this rambling, unfocused plot. Character is a little more important to him than story. His exit from the franchise was maybe for the best. Who are they going after this time?
A guy with diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, South African diplomats who are running drugs.
Like the bad guy from Lethal Weapon 2. I got diplomatic immunity, so Hammer, you can't sue.
What is that from?
Family Guy.
Oh, because they have diplomatic immunity, the cops can't touch them.
Is this the one where they start to build the house?
Well, yeah, because the house, at the end of the first one, Riggs crashed a car through the front of Murtaugh's house. Murtaugh's house is destroyed in every movie, except for 3. In the first one, the car gets driven through it. In the second one, it gets blown up by the toilet bomb. And then the fourth one that gets burned down by the triads.
Alright.
In our early scene in this, Riggs is talking to Murtaugh's wife. Mrs. Murtaugh asks Riggs, how is the new medication going? Mel Gibson is no longer suicidal. That part of his character arc is over.
He's a more adjusted...
Yeah, he's still a loose
individual.
cannon, but he is no longer suicidal.
We forgot to mention that the therapist in the first Lethal Weapon is
No,
the mom.
she's in all 4 of them.
The therapist is the mom from Monster Squad.
From Monster Squad and Goonies, and she was in Die Hard.
Yeah, I don't care about all those. But she was the mom in Monster Squad.
Yeah, that's what we know her from, the police psychologist, and she is in all 4 of these movies. And that's something that's cool about the series, is it has very tight actor continuity. It's the same actor playing all of Murtaugh's kids in all the movies, same actor playing his wife, same actor playing the police chief, same actress playing the police psychologist. The bad guys are South African. This was during the time when apartheid still existed, basically the institutionalized racism in South Africa. Something I noticed while we were watching the series just this week. In the first movie, Danny Glover, or Murtaugh, has a anti-apartheid bumper sticker on his fridge. Then the bad guys in this one are South African. I've always said that the action genre really exists so we can kill the villains of the real world in a fantasy environment. At this point on, every one of the movies, the bad guy is involved in some sort of real life issue or evil that's going on out there. And the villains in this one all have these creepy names, like Arjun is the main bad guy and his henchman is Vorstead. They're bad dudes. 2 is actually my favorite in the series. This one has a better balance between the action and the humor because there's a lot of funny stuff in this. Murtaugh's oldest daughter is an actress and she gets her first acting job. And it's for a prophylactic commercial. His reaction is priceless.
Would you say that Danny Glover is the straight man?
They're both funny in different ways. He's a straight man in that he's the more adjusted guy, at least in the first movie, but they are both very funny.
These movies make me lol.
And speaking of the comic relief, Lethal Weapon 2 also introduces Leo Getz, played by Joe Pesci.
I have an appreciation for Joe Pesci.
I like him in this first installment that he's in.
I like him every time he's Leo. Okay.
That's his catchphrase.
I love that. And I'm serious when I say this. Every time he does that, I laugh.
In every movie, he's got a different gimmick. In this first one, he is a unorthodox tax accountant. Let's put it that way. In the second one, when he first appears, he is funny. I'm not entirely certain why they felt the need to bring him back for each consecutive film.
I can't remember what his role was in 3.
A housing developer.
Oh, okay.
He's his house
but I
salesman.
think it's funny that he becomes a private eye
in 4. Yeah, he has a different job in every movie.
That one is a great gimmick for him, but we'll get to that later.
The scene from Lethal Weapon 2 that is the most famous is the toilet bomb.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen it parodied on The Simpsons and many other things, and apparently the original trailer for this movie was just that scene, and then it ended with the house exploding, the toilet falling on top of the police car, and then Don LaFontaine, Mr. Movie Trailer, saying, "This time they're not taking any crap."
That is awesome. If there was one person in the world that saw that trailer and didn't go see the movie, They need to be shot.
I don't think there were many people who didn't go see this movie. It was the number 3 film of the year, and this was the same summer as Batman and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Wow. Well, those were the 3 movies.
Yeah, those were the top 3 movies of the year, yeah. Exploding Toilet Scene is hilarious because it is such a ridiculous premise, but it actually builds some intensity. Further evidence of Riggs and Murtaugh's everlasting love when Riggs says, I'm going to stay here with you. I'm going to be the one who pulls him off the commode.
You're saying that, and I understand where you're coming from, I really do. I think it's meant to more show the relationship between a cop and his partner.
I'm being slightly facetious, but like I said, all the best 80s action movies are ripe with gay subtext. In the 80s, they tried to make movies that were so macho, they went back around in the other direction, so to speak.
So they were fucking the guy in the ass and had the common goddamn decency to give him a reach around.
I say that Riggs and Murtaugh are bros, but Riggs does get a love interest in this. Rika, who is the secretary for the South Africans, for the first time they meet each other, there's some sort of interest.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, he picks her up in a grocery store, go back to his trailer, and they fuck all night.
When the trailers are rocking, don't come a knocking.
Yeah, they bang, and then she...
They bang. Ooh, baby.
But then she gets killed off at the next scene. Rika does not make it to Lethal Weapon 3. That's a problem with this movie. The romance between those two characters is really, really rushed, and it does feel forced in and doesn't add a lot to the movie. There's a ridiculous plot twist, and we find out that the bad guys in the second film were somehow responsible for the death of Riggs' wife. Somehow, which is really stretching it. And that causes him to go on a roaring rampage of revenge at the end of the film. This time it's personal. Pulls a High Noon, throws his badge away, and goes after the villains, and pulls their fucking hideout down with his pickup truck. Middle cord from his truck to this tower and yanks it over. Holy shit. I don't think that would work in real life.
It wasn't the whole building, though. It was only like the porch.
I think the action in this is better. There's a fight scene in an apartment. The fight goes out of the apartment through the window into the pool. There's a pretty cool car chase. Murtaugh is attacked in his under construction house and kills a guy with a nail gun. Says afterwards, nailed that guy.
A really great scene to me.
Oh, and then we forgot to mention Riggs' dislocated shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Which is there's a scene earlier in the movie where he is in the police station. They put a straitjacket on him and he dislocates his shoulder to get out of the jacket. And that scene has no purpose in the script other than to set that up for later in the movie when the bad guys put him in a straitjacket and push him into the river. Chekhov's dislocated shoulder there. The tonal shift from lighthearted action comedy to revenge thriller at the end is sudden. Lethal Weapon 2 is my favorite of the series. It has the best balance of action, humor. It has the best story. The bad guys have that amazing gimmick of diplomatic immunity.
I'm a big fan of all these movies. There's not one of them that I don't like.
Riggs, homicide. Nobody's dead. Hey, the night's young. This is Sergeant Murtaugh. You know how come I know there's a bomb in the building? How? Because I got 8 days to retirement, and I will not make a stupid mistake. Trust me, okay? That's usually my first mistake.
Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, in a Silver Pictures production of a Richard Donner film, Lethal Weapon 3.
We're back!
Yeah.
Hey, listen. Yeah. You think I could get a gun this time?
No.
What about 3, though?
I like 3.
You like 3. Lethal Weapon 3 from 1992, like we said. The second one was a big hit. This was a franchise now. We're in the 90s. Murtaugh is a week away from retirement, which in an action movie usually means that character is about to die. When your partner is a week away from retirement, he's gonna get a bullet in the opening credits. But that doesn't happen. That's usually what would happen, but not this time. Blow up a building accidentally at the beginning of the movie. Riggs and Murtaugh are put back down on street duty. Mm-hmm. They interrupt theft of an armored car. Notice that the thieves are using armor-piercing bullets. And this leads them to the bad guy of the movie, who is a former cop who is selling illegal weapons on the streets. Like I said, part 2 introduced this idea of the villains in each Lethal Weapon movie have to be involved with some sort of real-world evil. I mean, I guess heroin smuggling in the first movie is evil, but it's abstract compared to apartheid or violence on the street. This one has 3 issues, because the villain is a dirty cop. The armor-piercing rounds are the MacGuffin. But really what it is they make constant reference to how the guns are killing babies. They say that. Kids keep getting killed. They keep getting caught in the crossfire of the violence. And that's really the impetus of the plot in this one. Lethal Weapon 3 is my least favorite of the tetralogy.
So it's your least favorite of the quadrilogy?
The humor in this one really starts to take a turn for the hacky. Leo Getz was fine in part 2, but when they're forcing him into the story in part 3, I think he's shrill. And I know that's Joe Pesci doing his thing. In this one, he starts yelling about how they keep fucking you. The insurance fucked you. The doctors fuck you. They just fuck you. There's this horrible gag. During the opening chase scene, Murtaugh catches the attention of this big black woman, develops a crush on him, and is pursuing him throughout the rest of the movie. That is some Looney Tune shit, but that's not even a way to describe it because the Looney Tunes would have done it funnier. Isn't to say that there isn't some humor in this one that I like.
I like the whole dynamic between Riggs and Rene Russo.
Yeah.
Can't remember her name.
Lorna Cole.
I love the chemistry between those two.
The thing with Russo is she's not a bad addition. It is an interesting choice to make her as tough as the guys. But sometimes I think the movie maybe pushes it a little too far and goes into pandering girl power. In the scene where they're in the mechanic shop, she's beating everybody up, and Riggs and Murtaugh are just watching. I'm split on her character. So I do like the scene where they compare battle scars.
And this is still long-haired Gibson, right?
Oh yeah, the mullet. The amazing mullet he has in these first 3 movies. How could we not mention that? What about the Australian accent? In the first 2 Lethal Weapons, you can really notice he still is trying to hide the accent. By 3, it's almost gone, and by 4, it's completely gone. 1 and 2, you can really hear the Australian in his voice. But I do like some of the humor with the dog. Biscuits. Riggs is trying to quit smoking, so he's eating dog biscuits instead, and that comes in handy later on when they are accosted by a guard dog, which he proceeds to win over. The best scene in the movie.
The best scenes in the movie often are from Riggs.
It's just some wacky thing that's happening.
That's the way a good buddy cop movie should be structured.
Yeah, because who gives a shit about the plot in any buddy cop movie? It's always about the interaction between the 2 guys.
Right. We did a podcast earlier in the series on dude movies.
Yeah,
No one watches those movies for the plot.
There frequently aren't any.
We watch those to see the interactions between the people in the films.
The best thing about the guard dog scene is that he adopts the dog, and it's still around in part 4. He has 2 dogs. Do you remember the name?
No.
It's Sam. He has a little border collie, and its name is Sam. And I don't know if they ever say the name of the Rottweiler. I have to mention, Riggs and Murtaugh, still gay. Murtaugh shoots a kid who is a friend of his son and freaks the fuck out about it. He's on his boat, drinking, he's drowning his sorrow, he's very distraught. His wife doesn't go talk to him, Riggs does. As they're talking, there's a lot of manly hugging. Murtaugh says to him, "I love you, man." But then
it's platonic love.
And then Riggs says he slept...
I learned that platonic love can exist between 2 men.
And then Riggs says he slept with a woman, which causes Murtaugh to punch him off of the boat. Later on, there's a scene where Murtaugh is on his knees in front of Riggs holding a bouquet of flowers. The subtext of this series is that Danny Glover and Mel Gibson love each other. That way.
It's platonic love.
My main problem with part 3 is the villain is super lame. Do you remember anything about the villain in this?
I remember that he is a dirty cop selling guns to kids on the street.
Okay, and you remember that because I just told you.
It has something to do with a repair shop.
His cover is a construction company. Jack Travis is the character's name, and he is super unassuming looking. He's not that interesting at all. The character...
But that is a great name for any kind of action movie, anything.
Jack is always a good first name for an action hero. This movie does have a good finale. They go out to the middle of the desert where this guy is building a suburb and they set the whole fucking thing on fire. I love the scene where Murtaugh goes nuts. He has an episode in this one. His face is covered in glistening sweat, pulls people out of bed and is pointing guns at them. What motherfucker sold you this gun? Holding people's heads against a spinning tire. I guess they wanted to switch it up and have Danny Glover go fucking nuts in this one. That stuff is cool. There's a pretty good chase on a freeway. Riggs is on a motorcycle. He does a dive off an uncompleted bridge.
Isn't there a chase on the freeway in every Lethal Weapon movie? I'm pretty sure that is a constant theme throughout the...
There is. Even in the first one, there's a foot chase through a busy intersection. Yeah, there is a chase of some sort on the freeway in every one of these movies, you're correct. But I think 3 is probably my least favorite of the series. It just feels the most formulaic and least interesting. And even it's not bad.
I guess it would be my least favorite out of the series.
This is one of the most painful experiences in my life. They're promoting you. Captain Riggs.
Captain Murtaugh.
Better reload.
Think you can stay off the streets and out of trouble?
Yeah, absolutely.
And take aim. Because your number is up.
You got the right to remain silent. You got the right to get an attorney. If you get Johnny Cochran, I'll kill you.
You mentioned earlier that Part 4 is actually your favorite. I can't believe they were still making Lethal Weapon movies in 1998. I associate the series so strongly with the 80s.
I like Part 4. Like you said, Leo was really annoying and feeling forced in.
Oh, yeah.
In 3. They handled him better in 4.
The series definitely has an expanding cast. They add a new member to the team in every movie.
I love Chris Rock.
Yeah, Butters.
In this movie.
Every time they meet the character, they call him something else, whose name is Butters. Chris Rock was really popular in 1998. Sometimes the movie just stops to let him do a very Chris Rockian rant about cell phones or race. And yeah, it's funny. I don't really think it advances the plot any, but
it's
funny.
Not meant to.
Yeah.
It's to show that Butters gets on Murtaugh's nerves.
Another reason why. He's his future son-in-law.
Right, but Murtaugh doesn't know it.
Yeah, he doesn't know. In fact, when he sees Butters trying to impress him so much, he thinks that
he's gay.
He's gay, and he's hitting on him. One of the big points in this film is that Riggs is about to become a dad. Murtaugh's about to become a grandfather for the first time, where the characters are in 1998.
When Chris Rock tackles the one guy to the ground. And he says, you have the right to an attorney. And if you get Johnny Cochran, I'm going to be pissed.
That's true, yeah. The OJ trial was still fresh in the public's memory at the time. We should probably mention the plot for this.
The triad.
Yeah, there's some bad Chinese people who are human trafficking is the hot button issue in this one. They're importing essentially slaves from China. And Riggs and Murtaugh find people on the boat. A whole clan of Chinese people end up living in Murtaugh's house, and the bad guys are coming after him. The bad guy, who is played by
Jet Li.
Now, you know who they offered the part to originally?
Jackie Chan.
Yes, and he turned it down because Jackie Chan never plays villains.
Which is a shame.
This is the movie trying to still appeal to the masses. Hong Kong kung fu movies were really, really popular in 1998.
Oh, yeah.
Jackie Chan had really blown up in popularity. Rumble in the Bronx, Super Cop, these were out, these were popular. Same year as Lethal Weapon 4 came out, Rush Hour came out, which we're going to talk about later. That was something very present in the culture at the time. Jet Li was the second biggest name in Hong Kong action at the time. It's not like he was really that big of a step down from Jackie Chan.
He has, like, what, 3 lines in the whole movie?
They're all in Chinese. He doesn't speak any English. He's very much a silent killer.
He says one English line, but I can't remember what it is.
In Hong Kong, you would be dead already, I think is what he says.
Yeah, something like that. I love the fact that it's Jet Li doing his thing, beating up these cops that have no idea how to handle themselves.
This is old school action meets what was considered the new wave of action at the time. It's now considered an old wave as well. And I don't think Chan would have been good in the part because he's funny. And Jet Li is
so deadpan, and it works so well.
And he's a good villain. I think he's probably the second best villain in the series after Mr. Joshua.
I would agree with that.
And he has that cool gimmick where he has the garrote and the beads. Strangles people with that. There's a lot of kicking and fighting. He beats the shit out of everybody.
Jet Li doing what he has spent his life learning. Straight up kung fu.
We gotta do a Hong Kong action episode someday. We gotta talk about Fist of Legend and Drunken Master and movies like that.
I know, but when we talk about anything else besides Jet Li movies, because we're going to talk about Jet Li movies, and we need to talk about, pretty sure he was in this vampire movie in Hong Kong that I keep telling you about that you need to see.
What vampire movie is this?
It's where the vampires start out as zombies, and they like bounce around.
Yeah, they're Jiangxi. They're hopping corpses.
Right.
I'm sure Jet Li did one of those. The hopping vampire movie is a whole subgenre to itself in Hong Kong.
Anyhow.
Joe Pesci is in this, and he rants about cell phones. He's at full force. You can't please me. So I mentioned how it annoyed me in part 3, how they made Rene Russo's character so tough that it pushed believability. But in this one, she's really sidelined because she's pregnant the whole time. She doesn't get to kick any ass.
Well, she kicks a little bit of ass.
She does. She flicks a knife around. Before they burn Murtaugh's house down, because as we said, they destroyed in almost every movie.
They did that Miss Congeniality thing.
Yeah, everybody underestimates them because they're women, of course. I wish they'd given her a little more to do. There's a scene that's very much in the tradition of the series where Riggs and Murtaugh go into the Chinese restaurant, which is the front for the triads, and he smashes the two-way mirror. He's being a prick. It's amazing.
Uncle Benny?
Uncle Benny, yeah, is the name of the gangster. There's that opening scene where they're on the boat, and Leo's caught a shark. That should have been way fun. Sharks are inherently hilarious.
That's how they get you. They get you to catch this fucking shark.
The shark fucks you. But there's a lot.
And then when the shark is fucking you, the dolphin hops up on there, and you gotta fuck the dolphin while the shark is fucking you, and then the dolphin fucks you, while the shark fucks you, and then everybody's fucking you.
Wow, you need to...
Okay.
You need to audition for the Lethal Weapon remake, JD. Really long scene where they're all in the dentist's office together. They're trying to get information out of Uncle Benny, and they let the gas go, and they're all giggling. That went on a little too long. Again, they were trying to catch up with what was popular at the time. The explosions are bigger. The beginning, they're fighting this guy who is in homemade armor with a flamethrower. And I sort of wish he was the bad guy throughout the whole movie. That's a really cool image, but he blows up in this huge explosion. There's a huge explosion on the boat. Great fight scene. They're on the freeway, and Riggs is fighting the one guy inside of a house that's being transported. He's dangling off the plastic, sliding across the road. All that stuff is sweet. The final fight with Jet Li where he gets impaled with a giant drill bit.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely the most violent of the films. There's a lot more beating and blood in this. For a while there, it looks like they may kill off Riggs or Murtaugh, but they don't. They both live, and there's that extended ending. The babies are born. They all get together. They have a big family reunion.
Why can't we be friends?
Yeah, that plays over the end credits.
Why can't we be friends?
I like it better than 3. The second half of this series is not as good as the first half.
4 is my favorite just because...
Got Jet Li kicking people in the face.
It's got Jet Li kicking people in the face. I'll admit it. What the hell?
And there has been some talks of rebooting the series. They want to do a new movie that would be about Riggs' son. Chris Hemsworth is a name that's being tossed around. There have been so many buddy cop movies made over the years and so many parodies of it that I just don't even know if the concept can work in a straight-up movie anymore. It's definitely a name that people still know. These movies are still popular. At one point in time, you could find them on cable every weekend.
We ain't partners. We ain't brothers and we ain't friends. I'm putting you down and keeping you down until Gans is locked up or dead. And if Gans gets away, you're going to be sorry you ever met me.
I'm already sorry.
Nick Nolte is a cop. Eddie Murphy is a con. He pulls some strings. He pulls some scams. They've got 2 killers to track down. They've got a kidnapping going down. They've got a fortune to hunt down. And it's all coming down in 48 hours.
Lethal Weapon was not the first buddy cop movie. A big influence on it was a movie from 1982 called 48 Hours.
Yeah.
It's prominent to the action genre. It was directed by Walter Hill, who made a number of fantastic action movies. This is the first movie produced by Joel Silver, who would become the biggest producer in Hollywood and really associated with the action genre. And 48 Hours was the movie that launched Eddie Murphy's movie career. Technically, this isn't a buddy cop movie, because one of the two guys isn't a cop. He's a convict.
I think the concept still applies.
It totally counts. Nick Nolte is Jack Cate, who's a cop pursuing these crooks who killed another cop. Guy in prison who knows something about the bad guys. That's Eddie Murphy's Reggie Hammond, and he gets him out of jail for 48 hours, thus the title, for 2 days. And if they can't catch the bad guys in 2 days, Eddie Murphy goes back to jail. What do you think of Nick Nolte in this?
I actually like Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte sounds like he's been up all night gargling gravel and whiskey.
Probably because he was.
Grittiest guy in the world. He's good in this.
No better actor in Hollywood to play an asshole cop than Nick Nolte.
He has played many hard asses throughout his career, and it's always weird when you see Nick Nolte as a romantic lead. It feels wrong. He should be punching people.
Even in some movies where he's punching people, I just don't feel like he's a good fit. And I know you won't believe me, but Cape Fear.
Cape Fear he's cast against type because he plays the family man in that.
He seems out of place. And that was the first movie I saw him in.
Like I said, he's best when he's playing a hard ass, which he frequently does. Now, what do you think of Eddie Murphy in this? Now, this was pre-Beverly Hills Cop.
I'm a big, well, not so much anymore, but...
Yeah, this was back when Eddie Murphy was still funny.
Back in his early days, I'm an Eddie Murphy fan.
He's introducing in his jail cell, singing tunelessly to the police.
Yeah.
Roxanne!
Yeah. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, son of a bitch, that's Eddie.
And the character is so horny. He spends the entire movie trying to get laid.
That's his whole drive,
yes.
is to get pussy.
Yes.
That's what he says.
Repeatedly. Throughout the film, he is begging Nick Nolte to just leave him alone for an hour, for 15 minutes, just so he can get laid. The standout scene for him is when he goes into the redneck bar and just starts fucking with people so
That's
hard.
when I started laughing. That's when he does the Eddie Murphy thing. Mm-hmm. When you can tell he finally got comfortable with the role.
Very much in his wheelhouse. Let them cut loose for that scene.
What was it that he said to him? Are you sure you don't want a black Russian? Ah! Because I'm black, I get it. He goes, well, here, I got one for you. Let me know if you've heard it. And he picks up the glass and throws it into the...
We mentioned before, there's that buddy movie formula where they hate each other at first, and these guys hate each other at first.
Oh, they hate each other clear through until the last 10 minutes of the
because
movie.
Nick Nolte's a little racist. The N-word is used loosely throughout.
But he does say later on in the movie that he was being racist to get a rise out of it.
He was being racist ironically. They actually do come to blows. There's a long fist fight where they just pummel each other.
Which is a great scene.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it is good. As they work together, they learn to respect one another, and by the end of the movie, they even like each other.
He even lets him keep his $500,000.
Now, the villains in this film are played by two notable actors. James Remire plays the main bad guy, and then his buddy, you might remember from Predator, Sonny Landham.
Yeah, the main bad guy. Was he the one that was in Warriors? I did see Warriors.
You did see that. What'd you think of the Warriors?
It was alright. Anyhow.
Yes, James Remire was in that. Yeah, he's in both
But I know
of these.
that Victor, the guy that they're beating up, was also in Warriors. The long-haired guy going, "Can the Warriors come out?"
Yeah, that's the dude that he's in Commando, and he's in
a
lot of other things. This movie leans a little more towards the serious side.
Yeah, which I think is why I had such a hard time.
The villains in this are pretty serious dudes, and the violence is serious. It's still a gritty crime thriller, despite having a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
It's been 7 long years.
Look, I got 48 hours to bring this guy in. I'm history.
You want me to go out with you for another 48 hours?
But Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte are back.
Welcome back, Red.
And they're making up for lost time.
It took them a while to make a sequel. They didn't make a sequel until 1990, when another 48 Hours finally came out. And the sequel is not very well regarded. That's why it surprised me when you said you actually prefer the second one.
I actually, while 48 Hours is the one that I think was funnier overall, another 48 Hours was more entertaining.
The big problem with this movie is it does rehash a lot of plot elements from the first film. Something I dislike about it is how it puts the main duo back at zero. Reggie's back in jail. There's a switcheroo here. This time Jack is the one that has 48 hours. He's 48 hours to clear his name to prove that he didn't kill somebody unarmed.
Missed that plot point. So if they called it another 48 hours, what else are you going to call?
Hates Jack has 48 hours to clear his name before he's convicted for manslaughter. That's what the plot is this time. He's after a drug dealer called the Iceman. The henchmen are these bikers, and one of them is the brother of the bad guy from the first movie.
Speaking of which, do you know who played him?
Yeah, Andrew Divoff. It's the Witchmaster.
Yes. I looked at him, I was like, I know this guy, but I'm looking at him, alright, I gotta look this up. Oh, that's the Witchmaster guy. That's exactly what I said. Thank you, Internet Movie Database.
Andrew Diegoff played a lot of thugs and goons in 80s action movies because he looks like a psycho. He's got a pair of crazy eyes. When it really puts the two lead characters back at zero, Jack and Reggie hate each other at the beginning of the movie again, even though they went through the experience of the first film. That is a problem. He even repeats the Roxanne joke.
Yeah, but it's funnier.
Eddie Murphy was still funny at this point, and he does get some good moments. Scene where he's trying to call in favors to everybody, which does not work out for him. He knocks on a door, one of the bad guys is with a hooker, and she says, "Let me put some clothes on," and Eddie Murphy whispers to himself, "She's naked."
We did forget to mention one really good joke from the first movie.
What was that?
When Victor went running out, and Eddie Murphy's chained up to the car at this time.
Right.
And he flings the door open.
Yeah.
And smacks him with it.
Right.
And he goes, "Oh, Victor, did that hurt?" Because it looked like it hurt.
Yeah, and we forgot to mention that at the end of the first one, he did finally get laid. There's another fight scene in a bar, and this one's not as good. This one does rehash some of the plot.
I mean, that's fair. I will admit that.
They really tried to push the action way more over the top in the sequel. The bad guys shoot the tires off of a bus, and it spins through the air a bunch of times. People are getting constantly shot through windows in this one.
Okay, but it's a sequel. They gotta...
Yeah, I know, they gotta up the ante. The bikers ride their bikes through the screen in the porno theater. That's what action movies were about in the 80s.
Well, this is the 90s.
It was made in the 80s. Sex and violence. Brian James, who is in both of this, is also an actor you've seen in a lot of stuff, was the bad guy in a Michael Dudikoff movie called Cyberjack. Spoiler alert for a 20-year-old movie. He's the bad guy in this one.
I actually know who you're talking about because, I watched this movie.
That usually doesn't happen. There apparently is a director's cut of another 48 Hours out there that runs over 2 hours long. Ooh, that sounds too long. Both of these first ones are about 90 minutes, and I think that's the right length.
If I can walk his beat, if I can get under his skin, I will nail this party.
This party crasher has whacked out 7 people. He's gonna do it again soon, today maybe.
And what if this cop doesn't want you tagging after him?
2 pros exchanging ideas. Why wouldn't you want to do it?
Not if you tied my tongue to your tailpipe and drove me 80 miles an hour naked across a field of broken glass.
Talk a little bit about a movie that you haven't seen, so I'll be brief here. 1991, a movie called The Hard Way, which stars Michael J. Fox and James Woods. Michael J. Fox is an actor who's a star of this Indiana Jones-style franchise. He's a very popular actor. James Woods is a hard-boiled cop who is after the serial killer called the Party Crasher, because he goes to parties and he kills people. Michael J. Fox decides he wants to meet up with this detective and pretend to be his partner to research for a role. You really should see this film. I know you enjoy watching James Woods be an asshole to people, and
that is fun.
And this entire movie is devoted to him being the biggest prick in the world to everyone. He's not the only villain in this movie. He's played by an actor named Stephen Lang, who's been in stuff. He was the bad guy in Avatar. Completely crazy. He plays one of the most demented villains I've ever seen in a movie. He makes his own video games where he edits his head onto the character, shooting cops in this video game. But it's 1991, so the graphics are primitive. And this is one of the movies where the bad guy is killed by he's tossed off a building, lands on a truck, which then explodes. Okay? It's an action comedy. In fact, I think it may be a parody of action movies because everything that happens in it is very exaggerated, but I would recommend The Hard Way. It's not very well known. The weird thing about Michael J. Fox is he's so popular from Back to the Future, but nobody remembers anything else he's ever been in.
Teen Wolf.
You got me there. People remember Teen Wolf.
Detective James Carter loved his job just a little too much.
You destroyed half a city block.
That block was already messed up.
But the job got a little too dangerous.
I would like one of my people to help.
Now it's time to bring in the master.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
They're 2 cops with nothing in common except the case they can't walk away from. The fastest hands in the East.
Wow.
Meet the biggest mouth in the West.
Alright, so let's talk about a movie you have seen. You actually did pretty well this episode. You've seen most of the things we're talking about today. We mentioned Lethal Weapon 4 came out in 1998. The same year of that, a movie called Rush Hour came out. And this was a film that very much was capitalizing on the popularity of Hong Kong action movies, and specifically of Jackie Chan. This is the stodgiest of material. Every cliche in the buddy cop movie book stars Jackie Chan. Who's the other half of the duo?
Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker.
People saw that Friday movie. And
then, he was in that, yeah.
And then he disappeared off the face of the earth for 6 years and then came out with this movie.
Yeah, Chris Tucker's fame has always eluded me. You're right, he hasn't done a lot of stuff because after Rush Hour, what's his most notable credits? Rush Hour 2 and 3. And Friday was what he was most well known for. He's in Jackie Brown. He's good in that. This one, Jackie Chan is Danny Glover. Chris Tucker is Mel Gibson. Jackie Chan is a Hong Kong super cop.
He is.
He's chasing after this art smuggler called Jiang Tao, I think. Anyway, he's friends with an ambassador to China in America. The ambassador's daughter gets kidnapped through a convoluted series of events that are not important. He teams up with Chris Tucker, and shenanigans ensue.
Let's just sum up these three movies with this. The first one is Jackie Chan in America.
The second one
is Chris Tucker in China. The third one is both of them in France.
Pretty much, yeah. The fish out of water story in this one is Jackie Chan here in America. And our ways are strange and unusual to him. When he first meets up with Chris Tucker, it's super racist. He's treating him like he's an idiot because he doesn't think he speaks English. Of course, he does speak English. We were talking about this earlier. You said that these movies are hacky. Holy shit, yes.
I still like at least the first two. The third one is definitely crap. Yes, they have every cliche. They do it on purpose.
I don't know if they do it on purpose. But
I'm pretty sure they do
But
it
I think
on
the
purpose.
appeal of the first one is Jackie Chan and his stunt work. The opening credits of the movie, he's leaping between two shipping crates. He climbs out of a car onto a traffic light and he's jumping across cars and he's using pull cues and chairs, flipping around.
Do the great Jackie Chan thing where he's fighting in an art museum.
Yes, and he has to hold up the vases while trying to beat people up.
I mean, that's like in every Jackie Chan movie.
I read an interview with Brett Ratner, the director of this movie, The Rat.
I hate Brett Ratner.
He said a lot of the stunts in this movie were intentionally recycled from Jackie Chan's old Hong Kong movies under the assumption that people watching this movie probably had not seen those Hong Kong films, which is probably true. That's the appeal of these movies, because it certainly is not Chris Tucker.
I like Chris Tucker, but he is the annoyance of the film.
He is incredibly annoying. He does have one funny scene in this one where they go into the club.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I don't like that.
But you have to like it because it's like a recurring...
There's a scene where he goes into a club which is predominantly African American. He's being tough to this guy. Chan leaves. It's his cousin. They're friendly. Which does lead to that joke. Jackie Chan impersonates what Chris Tucker was doing earlier and uses a word which is impolite.
What's up, my N-word?
And it doesn't go well for him.
And then bar fight.
That's what happens. The characters are Lee and Carter. No points for guessing which one's which. They dance. They talk about their dads. They practice flipping their badges out. All that stuff is kind of funny.
I like that scene. Jackie Chan teaches him how to disarm a gun. Tucker teaches him how to dance.
But the plot in this is completely generic. There's a plot
said about any.
There's a plot twist involving the villain, and it's really easy to figure out who the bad guy really is if you know how to play the game. Spot the sinister British guy. There's one British person in this group. He's the villain. It's a 90s action movie. The British guy's evil. Say what you will about Brett Ratner, but the dude at least knows how to frame an action scene. None of these movies have any shitty shaky cam.
I hate Brett Ratner.
Somewhere in the Far East, a deadly crime ring is about to trigger an international crisis, but they didn't plan on this.
I wish they all could be California girls.
The vacation may be over, but the fun is just beginning. This summer, have fun. Get ready for a second rush.
So they made a sequel, Rush Hour 2, 2001. It picks up right where the first one ended. The first one ends with Lee and Carter getting on a plane going to Hong Kong. The sequel begins with them in Hong Kong.
You never touch a Chinese man's Beach Boy CD.
What is it with sequels to buddy cop movies where the sequels recycles jokes from the first one?
I get it, but I'm going to roll that under they did it on purpose.
That's giving the people who made Rush Hour 2 way more credit.
I'm telling you, it was on purpose.
It's a switcheroo. Chris Tucker is the fish out of water. He's in Hong Kong and he is a belligerent douchebag. Some of the humor in this is really rather racist. Treatment of Chinese people in this is not aged well. He's trying to buy a chicken, but the woman doesn't understand him. He's running around Hong Kong in a silk shirt. He's looking for a massage parlor. We know movie. We know what massage parlor means in Hong Kong. Flat out repeats jokes. Repeats the thing about the Beach Boy CD. Nobody understands the words that are coming out of your mouth.
When they do it in Rush Hour 2, it's actually funny. Where in Rush Hour 1, it's just kind of offensive. In Rush Hour 2, when he goes, "Do you understand the words that are coming out of my..."
Yeah, they switch
and then he offers up the rebuttal and says, "Man, nobody understands the words that are coming out of your mouth." That's funny.
Yes. Jackie Chan is funny.
It makes me lol.
Funniest scene in this movie, it's very brief. Lee Chan's character thinks that Chris Tucker's character is dead. He's driving down the highway and the P. Diddy song, "I'll Be Missing You," comes on and he slowly starts bobbing his head to the music. Jackie Chan can be a very funny performer, but his comedy comes out through his physical persona, and that's a great example of that. And he's still doing some cool stunts in this, somersaulting through a tiny window, he ninjas onto a boat. Speaking of the massage parlor, there's a good fight scene in that where everybody's punching each other. At this point in his career, Jackie Chan could still bring that stunt level. There's a scene where he's on the scaffolding, he's dodging all the bars.
You want to know my favorite thing about this movie?
What's that?
It's in the credits. When the outtakes, it shows the scene where they kicked the evil guy out of the...
Yeah, the villain.
Kicks him out of the window. Chris Tucker goes, "Damn!
He's not going to be in Rush Hour 3. Yeah, he ain't going to be in Rush Hour 3, yeah.
That should have been in the movie.
This one does get better when they go back to America. There's a plot, there's a counterfeiting plot, there's a sexy Secret Service agent that they both have the hots for. The finale's in a casino. That stuff is a little better. Chris Tucker has two funny scenes in this when he's in Hong Kong and he does karaoke.
The Chinese are singing one Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, the Chinese guy
pisses him off.
Is butchering Don't Stop You Get Enough.
Chris Tucker goes, Nah.
Timon.
Timon.
When he's in the casino playing craps, this victory is for all my black brothers.
Yeah.
That stuff's kind of funny. And I do like Zhang Jie from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon plays the villain's henchwoman in this, and she's cool.
Gotta be all kung fu and shit.
One thing that's in this movie's favor, it's short. It's 90 minutes. All these movies are like that length. Rush Hour 2 is about on the same level as the first one, maybe a little better.
Carter and Lee are back.
Let's split up.
Where they don't belong, the city of love is in for a world of hurt.
Leave Paris tonight.
You got a deal. Let's get the hell out of here.
On August 10th, prepare for their finest hour.
Inexplicably, 6 years later, they made another one. 2007. I just can't believe they made a Rush Hour 3 in 2007. The series was way past its expiration date by that point. 6 years later, Jackie Chan's the bodyguard of the ambassador to China. Chris Tucker's character is working as a traffic cop. They uncover a plot to assassinate the ambassador that leads them to Paris. And then it turns out the villain is Lee's long-lost evil brother. I know the writing in this has always been bare minimum, but they really did not put any effort into the plot in this at all.
And it's still the triad.
They do the exact same thing that in the first one, where the secret villain is the sinister foreign dude. As soon as I saw Max von Sydow was in this, it's him. And of course I was right. This one goes for the easiest jokes possible. When they enter the dojo, the one Chinese guy there is named Yu, the other one there is named Me. Chris Tucker's trying to talk to them. It's the most racist version of Who's on First I've ever heard.
But Jackie Chan was in the movie, so it's okay.
Thing with Jackie Chan, by 2007, he was not a spring chicken anymore. And he could not do the stunts that he once could. He got old. Watching Jackie Chan being replaced by CGI is the most depressing thing. You remember the final fight where him and Hiroyuki Sanaka fighting on the Eiffel Tower and it's all CG? Really shitty joke in this movie is Jackie Chan's in a room fighting this Chinese lady and Chris Tucker puts his ear to the window and he thinks they're having sex because he can just hear the grunting and things getting thrown around. And then, hey, random cameo from Roman Polanski. The love interest in the movie is also the MacGuffin because she has something tattooed on the back of her head. For some reason, Chris Tucker thinks she's a man at one point, so hey, here's some transphobia. That's a great movie. The car chase wasn't bad.
I actually like the cab driver in this movie.
Yeah, the American-phobic cab driver who then embraces the ways of violence. Funniest joke in this, and this tells you how dire of a movie Rush Hour 3 is. It acknowledges the simmering gay subtext beneath every buddy cop movie. Carter and Lee break up, has this montage where Elton John, sorry is the hardest word to say, is playing, and moping around and they're sad, and then they're reunited in a musical number. None of these movies are really good. Rush Hour 1 and 2 work okay as a popcorn movie that you watch and then you immediately forget everything about it afterwards. 3 is not even that good. It is definitely bad.
In the toughest city in the world, nobody fights crime like these guys.
Somebody call 911, holy sh...
And then there's the other guys.
Stop humming that song!
How do they walk away in movies without flinching when it explodes behind them? There's no way! The movie industry is completely irresponsible for the way they portray explosions!
So now we've come to the portion of the show where we're going to talk about parodies of buddy cop movies. The genre has become so ubiquitous that there are now movies making fun of the whole idea. Now, the movies making fun of the idea might actually be more popular.
I think we are not talking about for some reason, but Cop Out is the one that really started it.
Yeah, but Cop Out was bad. Cop Out is Bruce Willis far into his no longer giving a shit period of his career, and Tracy Morgan is super annoying in that.
So what you're saying is Tracy Morgan was being Tracy Morgan.
That was initially on the list, but I decided to not add it. Thought it was so forgettable. And you think about buddy cop movies that are popular here, and I guess the Bad Boys movies are still popular. I saw the first Bad Boys, and I remember very little about it. My thoughts on Michael Bay are well established by now. So no, I never bothered with the second one. But they keep threatening to make a third one.
I like how you say they keep threatening.
A couple years ago, there was that Denzel Washington, Mark Wahlberg movie, Two Guns, straight up out of the 80s buddy cop movie. Hot Fuzz was another parody.
Yeah, but we're saving that for another
Yeah,
day.
we're going to talk about that soon. Hey, what was another buddy cop movie Mark Wahlberg was in?
Well, you know, that movie that was with the other guys.
It's not those guys.
It's the other guys.
It's the other guys. 2010, The Other Guys came out. Now, I'm not a particularly big fan of Will Ferrell. He's all right. I'm very divisive on Mark Wahlberg. The director of this film also directed Anchorman and Ricky Bobby, Adam McKay. Now I'm touch and go on him. him. The Other Guys is kind of brilliant. One of the most subversive films I've seen in recent memory. Starts leading you to believe the main characters are Samuel Jackson and The Rock. In the beginning, they crash a car through a bus, then get out of the car and drive the bus, and they say something like, cost the city $200 million to catch these two guys who were smoking pot, which is a misdemeanor in some states. But nobody gives a shit because these guys are so awesome, they're beloved. Then they die. In an amazing sequence, they start to believe their own hype. They believe that they can survive a drop from a 20-story building, and it doesn't work out for them. Suddenly, the police precinct is without their heroes. The movie isn't about Riggs and Murtaugh, it's about the dudes back at the office. The villain is not a sinister European terrorist or anything. It is a corrupt corporate businessman who is stealing police pensions.
Is that the fairy god person?
Yeah, who's that actor? What's his name? Steve Coogan. Steve Coogan is the actor that plays the bad guy.
He was a British actor that wasn't in Lord of the Rings, so he's not important. Let me rephrase that. He was a British actor that was not in Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter.
About white-collar crime and how fucked up some of the things that happen in the American economy, this good old country of ours. And during the end credits, they show these schematics that show how out of control the greed is on Wall Street. So that's a funny, really subversive thing. Though it's not too funny because it's true, thus incredibly depressing because it's actually happening.
By the way, when they come up and said you gotta take corporate espionage stuff to the SEC, I understood that reference.
Mark Wahlberg doesn't seem to understand that isn't a prison.
Yeah.
Wahlberg's character is a disgrace cop. He shot, what's the name of the fucking baseball? I just watched this last night.
So did I.
He accidentally shot a prominent baseball player whose name we can't remember because we don't watch baseball. But Mark Wahlberg, his character, and maybe in real life, he sees everything through the lens of action movie cliches, and he doesn't seem to understand that there's any other way to deal with something other than shooting somebody and putting them in jail. Really subtle, funny joke is when they're in his apartment. He has a framed poster of Cobra on the wall.
What I like about him is he's just so damn angry all the time.
He has this amazing talent for ballet and art and music, all of which he learned ironically in order to make fun of the fairies, is the word he uses.
Is it Derek Jeter?
Derek Jeter! Derek Jeter is the name of the baseball player he shoots.
Damn.
Now, what about Will Ferrell's character in this, who is incredibly bizarre?
I found myself laughing at him the most.
Will Ferrell looks like Will Ferrell. He's the most bland person. But women find him...
all the hot women find him attractive.
Irresistible to him. His wife is Eva Mendes, who is attractive. He constantly apologizes for how plain and ugly his wife is, even though she's Eva Mendes, who is, as previously stated, attractive. Elaborate backstory with him about how, in college...
He was a pimp.
A friend of mine started a dating service, and she wanted me to offer protection to her in exchange for a percentage of the money they make. So you were a pimp. No, I wasn't a skater, needs his gat. Pimps don't cry. That's the best thing about The Other Guys, is this very surreal sense of humor. The reason I wanted you to see this is Michael Keaton plays the police chief, and this was the first thing he had been in a while that people actually saw. Has some interesting quirks. First off, he works part-time at Bed Bath & Beyond. Sometimes he mixes up his notes from his two jobs. Yes. We need to start selling candles more, and then there's a rapist in Greenwood Village. Oh, I'm sorry. Ignore that. Well, don't ignore it if you live in Greenwich Village. He mentions his son, who is going to art college and is bisexual. Peppers his dialogue with references to TLC songs that he refuses to admit are references. Why is it in the movie? I don't know. It's funny. And the fact that they got Michael Keaton to do it makes it even funnier.
He really is a good actor. I don't know.
Well, he's a great actor, but he's hysterical.
I don't know what happened to his career.
Now he's Birdman, and he almost won an Oscar for that. This recurring joke about Will Ferrell's Prius, about how hobos like to have orgies inside of it, and take a dump on the seat.
Or a severed deer vagina.
I have no idea how this movie got a PG-13 rating. It's filthy.
It was only PG-13?
Yeah, this was a PG-13 movie.
Somebody got paid off.
What do they call it when a bunch of hobos have an orgy inside of your car? It's called a soup kitchen. People keep stealing their shoes, and then at one point they make...
Why do they keep stealing our shoes?
Will Ferrell and his wife are communicating through their grandmother. They'll say something plot relevant, and then they'll say, he wants to F you so hard, getting this old lady to say these awful, awful things. This movie is incredibly ballsy. It is very strange. Plot about corporate greed, and it's a parody of action movies to a liberal topping of absurdity. I think this movie is freaking hilarious. Really admire how nutty The Other Guys get.
I enjoyed the movie.
We're reviving a canceled undercover police program from the 80s. You idiots are officially transferred.
Where do we report?
Down on Jump Street. 21 Jump Street.
You are here because you some Justin Bieber, Miley Cyrus looking motherfuckers. You will be going in as undercover high school stools.
Speaking of other movies making fun of buddy cop films, there's one released in 2012 called 21 Jump Street, which is an adaptation of an old TV show from the 90s that people really don't remember, except for it being Johnny Depp's first big role. And when they said we're making a movie out of that, everybody's like, that sounds like a terrible idea. But then the movie came out, and it was surprisingly funny.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how nervous were you when I told you that I was going to make you watch 21 Jump Street for the podcast?
The film had gotten good reviews, and people said that it's way better than you'd expect, but it is true that I'm not the biggest fan of Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum. I've seen him in things that I liked.
But you've also seen him in things that you've hated.
I've just never been totally sold on him. This movie, 21 Jump Street, was directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who would later make the Lego Movie. Phil Lord and Chris Miller have become the guys to go to when you have an idea that should be terrible, and then they somehow turn it into something that's good.
Turn it into a slice of fried gold?
You could even say that. In high school, Schmidt was a dork, and Jinko was a jock.
Not so Slim Shady.
And a few years later, they meet again in Police Academy, and they become best friends. But unfortunately, they are generally incompetent cops, and they end up getting assigned to this defunct program from the 80s that they're reviving for some reason, where they will go undercover as high school students in order to catch the distributor of this new drug. It doesn't truly fit tonight's theme. It's not just a buddy cop movie. It's actually more prominently a high school movie. The main joke of this is in 2012, the guy who was the dork in 2006 is now the cool kid. And the guy who was the jock in 2006 is now the dork. Apparently, high school kids are sensitive now. I don't know when the fuck that happened.
It happened in California.
Yeah, one of the jokes I really like about this is when they first get to school, and he said, oh, that's the jocks. Those are the dorks. And they pass the hipster kids. And he says, I don't really know what they are. And then they pass the scene kids, and he's like, what the fuck is that?
We gotta talk about the scene where he punches the black kid.
If you want to be popular in school, the first person who messes with you, you punch him in the face. Channing Tatum tries that, and it doesn't work out for him. Punches the black kid. Immediately afterwards, they find out he's gay. When you think about it, it's kind of less bad if he had punched you if you weren't gay. It's funny, sure. Anybody who was unpopular or awkward in high school has thought about, if I knew what I know now and could go back, it would be different. I've thought about it. I'm surely you have.
Oh, well, yeah.
And this movie plays with that. I wish it had done a little more with that idea. As a high school movie, this one disappointed me. As a parody of cop movie, I think this works a lot better. There's the bicycle chase through the park, shot like a chase scene in a Michael Bay movie, so it's super intense. And then they'll cut back, and they're just on their bikes. When they get to the actual car chase, that's one of the funniest scenes in the film.
They get all these things that should explode.
They shoot holes in the side of a gasoline truck.
That's the second one.
It doesn't explode. Then when a vehicle does explode...
It's a thing of chickens.
Yeah, it's a truck hauling chickens. But an even subtler joke during that chasing, they have to keep stopping and getting another vehicle because of traffic. Traffic on the freeway is a thing that doesn't exist in action movies.
I love that it does in this. One of the best scenes in the movie.
Something that is generally very funny about this is it acknowledges the premise is really tacky. Nick Offerman plays the guy who assigns them, and he even says it's a revival of some project from the 80s. And it's because the people upstairs are all out of ideas. Rather meta. I wasn't super crazy about this first one. It does follow the standard buddy plot arc. Two characters break up in the middle of the movie, and they have to get back together. And as meta as this film is, I was really surprised that it did that typical plot construction. I find that tedious when they break the couple up. Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum do have a way with absurd, circular dialogue, and there are some inspired gags. Korean Jesus?
Yes. The fact that Channing Tatum can't remember Miranda rights.
Yeah, that is a recurring.
The one that I like, and I know you're trying to avoid it, but it's happening anyway. You have the right to remain, and you can't remember what he's supposed to say. You have the right to suck my dick.
Yeah, there's a lot of dick and ball and fucking humor in this one. Jinko and Schmidt actually get in a fight. Why Schmidt is in the middle of a performance of Peter Pan.
Yes.
And he leaps into the air.
Did it make you lol?
It did make me lol. And hey, Rob Riggle is in all three of these movies we're talking about right now. He's in The Other Guys, and he's in both 21 Jump Street films.
He's Rob Riggle?
He is the gym coach in this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's in all three of these. Ice Cube plays their commanding officer, and he is really, really funny in these movies.
Yes, he is.
And then I think we have to mention a cameo from Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Who shows up out of nowhere. It's brilliantly executed. And apparently this movie takes place in continuity with the original 21 Jump Street series. He's playing the same character. I guess if I had ever watched or cared about that original series in any way, I would have found that amusing. But the fact that they got Johnny Depp in the movie is cool.
Now, did you realize it was Johnny Depp?
I knew Depp was in the film. When his character is revealed, it is a surprise.
It caught me off guard.
Oh, and then somebody gets their dick shot off. Oh, and what do you think of Schmidt's girlfriend, Brie Larson? Is she attractive?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's attractive in a way a normal human being is. Like, I would date that girl in high school. She wouldn't date me, though.
Well, I hoped never to see you again.
What's up, dog? We're back.
Ladies, nobody cared about the Jump Street reboot, but you got lucky. So now this department has invested a lot of money to make sure Jump Street keeps going. So we're moving you across the road to 22 Jump Street.
You two sons of bitches are going to college.
This film was a surprise hit, and they made a sequel. 2004's 22 Jump Street.
2014.
2014's 21 Jumps. 22
Jump
fucking
Street.
balls.
2014's 22 Jump Street.
One of the things I really, really like about the sequel, the first movie was like a parody of high school movies and cop movies. The sequel is a parody of sequels.
And college movies.
But more importantly, sequels. It opens with this ridiculous chase scene where they're undercover. Jonah Hill gets attacked by an octopus.
It's sucking my face.
Yeah. Because of that, Nick Offerman comes to them and says, we want you to do the exact same thing you did last time.
Yes.
So they have to go undercover as college students and uncover a new drug, which is spelled W-H-Y-P-H-Y. And when Tatum first reads that, he says, Whitey? Which I thought was a hilarious joke, because if I had looked at that word, I would have pronounced it the exact same way. They're in a church across the street from the other church in the first movie. So it's Vietnamese Jesus this time. Ice Cube, not Ice-T. Ice-T was in the other guys. Ice Cube is in 22 Jump Street.
Ice-T was in that?
Yeah, he was the narrator.
Oh, yeah.
Our budget's bigger this time, so I can afford the office I want. I want to put a fucking Shark Tank over there. And Channing Tatum says, sharks are cool.
Yes. Let's talk about the really funny stuff.
Okay.
You're talking about the plot. Nobody cares about the plot. There is one little subplot that I find to be really funny in this movie.
Oh, go ahead.
Schmidt hooks up with this girl at college.
Yeah, this art student.
And she turns out to be the captain's daughter.
Schmidt is fucking the captain's daughter.
When Channing Tatum realizes this, he looks at Schmidt, he looks at the captain with the picture, looks back at Schmidt. Oh, shit! You fucked the captain's daughter!
Schmidt is fucking the captain's daughter!
you high-fived it!
And the sequence goes on for about 2 minutes. But at the end, Tatum sits down and says, I don't think it's that funny.
Ice Cube takes and slams his gun down on the table.
Keeps sending him text messages, I'm gonna kill you, Schmidt. When they do the family dinner,
yes,
he goes ballistic on the buffet. Put some green beans on that plate. Put some fucking green beans on that plate. I'm gonna get some goddamn deviled eggs.
Can that black man get some green beans?
Picks up the chicken by the leg and starts swinging it around. Oh my God, I had no idea Ice Cube was this funny. The character we assume to be the murderer takes off his shirt and he has a tattoo of a red herring on his arm. At one point they say, you can't get any more car crashes. The budget's run dry. Ostensibly they're talking about the police budget. Because this movie is very self-aware, they're also talking about the movie budget. They're trying to avoid collateral damage and the bad guys are in Hummer and they're crashing through walls. Smith's girlfriend's roommate says very hateful things to him. Very, very dryly. She's hysterical.
At the end when they're fighting.
The last act at spring break
is the best part of the movie.
Before we get to that, we gotta talk about the drug trip scene.
Do we ever?
They're both having a trip, and on this end, Jonah Hill in a wasteland, and Creed is playing. And then over here, Channing Tatum's on a multicolored cartoon set, ass and titties is playing. Vietnamese Jesus is there, and they're dancing.
Oh, I missed Vietnamese Jesus.
Yeah, the drug humor in the first movie actually didn't really work. The drug trip in this is amazing. It's hysterical.
Ass and titties.
Yeah.
Ass and titties.
They go to spring break at the last act because it's a college movie. You gotta do spring break. Channing Tatum's being chased by the bad guys. A girl jumps on his shoulders and he starts swinging her around, hitting people with girlfriend's roommate is involved in the villain's plot in some way.
She's the daughter.
Oh, go ahead. Spoil the fucking movie.
Sorry. It is a 2-year-old movie that 90% of America
It's not even 2 years. It came out last year. Jonah Hill and this girl are fighting. They're fighting, but they're also keep saying like, stop trying to make out with me.
I'm sorry, are we fighting or fucking?
There's some unresolved sexual tension there. The sequence where they're hanging off the helicopter.
I don't do parkour.
It's funny because it's so ridiculous, but it actually works with the themes of the movie.
Say something cool.
Something cool! The end-credit montage.
It's probably the best scene in the movie.
There's some good stuff in there. They show you the next 30 sequels. And the video game and the cartoon spin-off.
Yes.
The best part is the directors have said that all that stuff is canon. So the next movie shouldn't be 23 Jump Street. It should be 37 Jump Street or whatever.
And then at one point in time, Jonah Hill gets replaced with Seth Rogen.
Yeah, there's a contract dispute. Richard Greco from the original 21 Jump Street shows up. I know this hasn't been the most coherent discussion. 22 Jump Street is very, very funny. It's much funnier than the first one, which I liked, but the sequel was heads and shoulders above it. Never thought...
Does that mean we'll be seeing the next one in theater?
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
The future's toughest cop is Katie Coltrane, and now she's getting a new partner. His name is Teddy.
It's a dinosaur.
You two solved this case together.
What? What? It's a dinosaur.
New Line Cinema presents Theodore Rex.
So hey, that's our Buddy Cop episode. Inconceivably, this is still a genre that's out there. You would think it would be so played out by now, but they're still making them.
God bless them. I don't want to live in a world without Buddy Cop movies. Even the worst one still has something entertaining about it.
But there are some pretty wretched ones made. I like to think that you and I are buddies. We're not cops, but if we were, we'd be Buddy Cops.
I'm too old for this shit.
You're right, let's end it. If you want to email us demanding we talk about horror movies again soon, you may do so at bangersinmash88@yahoo.com. We think the email may be dead. It's been about about a year since we've gotten one. We've got a Facebook group. That's all I gotta say about that. I guess we should close this case file and report to the chief.
See that, Streamek? We're just in time. We have stumbled into a major crime.
They got the girl all frightened. Now that's not nice. I think she is the subject of a sacrifice.
Buddy, we're putting this party on ice.
But don't you know we really ought to read them their rights?
Read them their rights. Read them their rights.
Well, I'm here tonight to rap about your rights. Cause right now you're in trouble. Don't have to say nothing at all. Y'all got two calls and you better make them on the double. This is the city of crime. So stand alive. This is the city of crime. You better be clean on judge's time.
You're a dangerous mob, and it is our job to bust you all for being violent. While we are here, let's state it clear.
You have the right to remain silent.
Well, excuse me, comma, Mr. Crime Solver, what is wrong with what we're doing? We just like to dance in our goatskin pants around this ancient ruin.
Now, it's not so funny that it costs big money if you ever have to hire a lawyer.
It's my duty to inform you and my pleasure to warn you.
We'll provide one for you. This is the city of crime. Don't stand alive. This is the city of crime. You don't get sentenced tonight.
Now you know what you've been doing is a serious crime.
And you'll probably be doing some serious time.
In case you might be worried about the friends you lose.
At least I get to see you on the evening news.
It's a new sensation.
We go down to the station
You're gonna answer some questions.
and have some refreshments.
What is your full name? What were you doing on January 15th of this year? All we want is the truth, mister. What were you doing in the location in question? What is the purpose of your pagan organization?
Whoa, you can't pin nothing on me, comma. This is the city of crime. Don't stand alive. This is the city of crime. Where all this thing is hard.
In case you don't agree with my methodology, I like to do things my way.
Don't get memory loss about who's the boss.
Don't forget, my name is Friday. I'm the man of the hour.
The tower of power.
I'm the arm of the law.
The very last straw.
I'm on the side of the right.
I claim it right now.
If you get me uptight, I am a